I just wonder if it's going to work. It might just work.
Sending data. Got the notification for Facebook.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Switching scene now, and you're good.
And we are live. Episode 93 of Live at the Hive.
Oh, we're so close to 100.
They're so
I know.
close.
I know.
Hey, everybody. I'm Dan Nadelko.
And I'm Justin Maciel.
Producer Matt.
And like we said, this is episode 93, the Labor Day, end of summer, edition of Live at the Hive.
Yep.
It's actually not the end of summer, just it's the end of school kids' summer.
Yes.
Yeah.
We still have another
Let's be
month.
clear.
We have another month of official summer.
That's what I keep telling people. People are like, it's over. I'm like, no, please don't.
No, it's the Canadian way.
Yeah,
it is the
that's
Canadian
true.
way.
That is true.
So today on Live at the Hive, obviously with Justin here, we're going to be talking about visual storytelling, design, graphic design, visual design, and how it works into everything else that you do.
Yep.
And we've got good what's working and talking about the 5 latest trends for Facebook and Instagram, what they announced back at F8 in April, what's happened since then, and how they've basically really followed through on it. That's the rise of stories, Facebook groups, messengers, all sorts of fun stuff like that. And then I guess we'll just kick off with what's new.
What's new? Right on. Cool. So the first article that we're going to be talking about for what's new is a great post through from AdStage, actually, and they're talking about Facebook advertising strategies. And this is a great kind of breakdown of some beginner Facebook advertising strategies, things that you should really nail down and really understand as someone who hasn't maybe dipped into Facebook advertising. A lot of the times for small businesses too, they think that boosting a post on Facebook it can count as advertising. And while it can be effective to spread your message, it's not really going in, honing down your targeted audience and creating those audience profiles, right?
That's right. I mean, there is more to it, obviously, that comes through in terms of the targeting, the Facebook pixel, creating custom audiences and lookalike audiences. But the interesting thing about this one, sorry, my computer had to switch networks. I just got to get it to catch up here, is in that particular article, and as soon as I pull it up, there's an interesting concept here called staged campaigns. And so it's an interesting one, in the sense that we do use a multi-staged approach to advertising, where we'll have a very large group. We take that audience that's interacted, create a second campaign. You would commonly refer to that as remarketing. But Facebook, in fact, has its own staged campaign type. And this article specifically will show you how to create not an automatic, but you set it up and you will stage a campaign. So it can go over a series of days, and what you're able to do is tell a bit of a story. So you're not just pushing out one ad. You could push out 3 or 4 ads.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, on Facebook, it's really important to be native, right? To be don't be broadcast. It's not television. And this in particular, the sequential advertising will allow you to create scenarios. If somebody interacts with the first ad, you can push them to the second. You could wait a period of time from first ad to second ad, create this small narrative, and what it'll allow you the space and the time to tell a story about your brand or your product, instead of just pushing it out. And I thought that was kind of an interesting feature that not a lot of people talk about or think about, potentially even know about on the platform. There's some other good ones here, a lot of the things that we talk about, but I wanted to really just kind of talk about that sequential ad type, because it's a feature of any campaign that you can then just go and edit and add your sequences. So it's a little bit like marketing automation in a sense.
Because we normally do that kind of thing manually, but it's nice that they're actually like putting it natively inside Facebook, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Okay.
Alrighty, next up, podcasts. We've been talking about podcasts, I think, for 4 episodes now straight, but it's really important. And Spotify is rumored to release a Create Podcast button on their site. So I think the platform that they're going to be using this is Anchor, but you're going to be able to create your own podcast on Spotify soon. So that's going to be a really cool integration.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I wonder how much money, like kickback, you'll get from like being your own creator, like almost like YouTube, right? But your own kind of audio, because that'd be like nice to know that kind of info with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It you know, in a sense, the analogy for YouTube is interesting because podcasts have traditionally been, I mean, there's a setup involved. You can't just go and create one and just shoot it out. This is very much the YouTube channel. I can just go to YouTube, sign up, and be shooting a video like a minute later. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects podcasts, and Spotify's really trying to differentiate themselves away, right? So yeah, like, you know, I want to create it may create a lot of garbage content because everyone's just going to go create a podcast. But it's got some interesting connotations in terms of how easy it could be to set things up and get them running.
Because like a podcast is way easier to set up than the video and doing all that YouTube setup, right? So I'm sure that a ton of new content is going to be popping up as soon as they make it available.
And I think exclusive content too it might be a way that they're going to go through it too, right? Exclusive Spotify podcasts. I can definitely see that coming through.
I wonder if they're going to make it available like only to premium members.
This is like, so far, like there's only been a few people that have kind of seen this and like screenshotted it. There's a few screenshots going around there. They haven't launched it out like officially yet, even for like a public, like a beta flight. But I see it happening where it's going to be a very short, small kind of number of people getting invited to this, just to Dan's point, so everything's not like flooded with like garbage podcasts. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. All right, cool. Let's move right along. Yes, and as predicted, we have a slightly smaller than normal audience. Labor Day long weekend.
Yes. Cool. Alrighty. Next up, Instagram may be allowing some creators to syndicate their IGTV videos to Facebook directly. So no longer will you have to resize each video, post it up on Facebook, one for IGTV. Everything's going to be really nicely syndicated under the two platforms, which is going to be great. And I think this shows too that if you're not posting content on IGTV right now, you should really get your feet in the water, because it's just going to be either I could see it kind of propelled through the algorithm, especially once you're able to syndicate your IGTV videos to Facebook, but it's also a great way to kind of distribute your content.
I'm surprised they haven't done this earlier, to be honest, because it makes it way easier to go back and forth, and then that content's pretty much already done, right? So then you just putting it on Facebook, you get a wider audience, and then there you go. And then obviously their clients are happier because now they have a wider audience they're giving out, right? So I'm surprised they haven't done this earlier.
I think what it is there's a lot of integrations that they've had between those platforms and moving things, like pushing stories back and forth has always been was a new feature, and I think it's just a matter of time to get it all tested and get it pushed out. But the syndication across this, really blurring the lines between what Instagram and Facebook truly are, while allowing people to feel like they're in a different platform. In essence, you're kind of, it's got a different user experience, but a great amount of similar features. Right.
Cool. Alrighty, next up on the list, we're going to be talking about another Instagram-related story. Instagram is releasing a app that's going to kind of directly conflict with Snapchat's kind of messaging platform. I guess it's their whole platform, really. But this is going to be shared with your close friends on Instagram. So for a while now, we've been able to actually add people to our close friends list. And this app is going to use those contacts in order to kind of share status, location, content, etc. So I think that this is going to be more so a glimpse into what Facebook envisions, that we keep talking about it, but the three platforms merged into one sort of thing. It's kind of the Messenger, the Instagram, the Facebook, the WhatsApp, you know what I mean?
And I mean, talking about Threads, this is the latest volley in the Snapchat Facebook war.
With salt.
Yes, with the history that the founders are there's no love lost between them. But it'll be interesting to see. how Threads actually works out in terms of sharing your status location more just with your closest friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a way to find each other, especially in urban areas. Well, you live in Toronto,
yeah.
so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm more of a private person, so to me, like, I don't want people to know my location, even my close friends.
Yeah, that's true.
I can just message them, but hey, some people, like, that's what they want, right? So obviously they do because they're making it a feature, right?
Yeah, and I think you got to kind of think of it this way too. Like, there's some people out there that use Instagram's messaging platform more than Messenger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's true. I think a lot of us, especially me, like, I use Messenger probably more than I do texting. And I think there's some people who use Instagram more. And I think that this is a way to kind of take those either communities of people who like have added each other to like close friends, and it just kind of gives them another way to kind of keep in contact that might be more streamlined for the way that they're using the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's another a couple of things here on the Android platform. If you're using that, if you install Facebook Messenger and allow it to connect to your SMS as your default messenger system, Facebook Messenger becomes really tightly integrated with your entire user experience on your phone, which if you're an iPhone user, you wouldn't quite understand how that works.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about this a little later in what's working. This is actually a big part of Facebook's strategy moving forward, is taking WhatsApp, Instagram direct messaging, and Facebook Messenger, creating a unified platform underneath. And they'll be able to, because they're using the same infrastructure, be able to potentially push messages back and forth across platforms.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is part of a broader war against apps like iMessage. Right? They want to disrupt that. But also the fact that messaging is a massive marketing tool moving forward in Facebook's arsenal. There's a lot of benefits that we can talk about in terms of what Facebook messaging and just messaging in general and chatbots, why people prefer that layer between them and their phone with a messenger. It gives power to the user, so you're not jumping on a phone call or having to call customer support, for example. And there's lots of things with groups and chats and things like that moving forward make it a really powerful marketing platform.
Yeah, because I've noticed ads, like while I'm in Messenger too, there's actually ads between my chats. So they're starting it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Is that it? We ran through it?
No, we still got a few more.
We do. What am I looking at then?
The next one actually goes on to the messenger topic, so we're keeping it straight. Cool. The next one is basically talking about Facebook introducing a new leads gen tool into Messenger, which is basically Facebook's own chatbot that you can program and put onto your business Messenger. So right here in the announcement, they have this cool little video that kind of shows you how to go about it. They have it in their ads, send a message. There's a couple of messages that are already displayed, and then you have a couple of choices that you can ask that kind of direct you towards different conversations. So like, what kind of outfits are you looking for? Dinner? What kind of describes your style? And blah blah blah. It's just typical chatbot.
Yeah.
So I think it just underlines the importance of integrating chatbots into your business, your social business accounts. And even here, it kind of talks about increasing quality leads by 42%.
Yeah.
It's just the stats speak for themselves here.
It's nice that it's embedded right into Facebook too.
Yeah, because I think a lot of like even small businesses too, they kind of get a little bit intimidated. They think, oh, chatbots. Like I wouldn't even know where to start really. You know what I mean? And this goes on to the point that we talked about previously, but keeping it all native on the platform is really important too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Nicole's saying, oh, maybe I'll be able to figure out how to use Insta to message then.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a point there that, we don't know what's going to happen with this unified messaging platform. We know that beneath all three, they're going to use the same foundation. I would imagine that there will be interaction between them, that you could find people on Facebook, Insta, and send them messages whichever way you would want. Totally. I think it's important to highlight that, typically as marketers, what people think is email. And this notion of chatbots seems scary. It seems like it's this kind of spammy thing. And it really isn't. It's how you use it. And I think really forward-thinking marketers will use Facebook chat, Facebook groups. People are interacting there, beyond all of the the media that you see about, you know, Facebook is dying and people are leaving. That's actually not the reality. The case is Facebook is really doing just fine. And it's very important, I think, in terms of your strategy to look at how you can use all of the tools and not just the tools that you might be very familiar with. You know, I posted, it didn't work. You know, we hear this. Facebook advertising doesn't work. It clears about $4 billion a quarter in profit, so it works.
Yeah.
It's just that you're not doing it properly, so there's that. And then using some of the things, and we'll talk about this as we dive into what's working, into using these trends that Facebook and Instagram are telling you that they're going to do, and just getting in there and starting to use it early on so you can get used to it and build a community around that.
Sure. Yeah, so why don't we just, that was it for what's new, so why don't we just keep on that train?
We have one more.
It's
the, where is it? It is up at the top. It is the wongmjane.com.
Let me see here. Maybe I just didn't refresh 1 second here.
Yeah, it's the first one there. Instagram featuring boomerang stories.
Yep, here we go.
So, now where did it go? There it is. So Jane Wong is kind of internet famous, if you're into this kind of thing. And what she does is she tends to get Instagram features early before anyone else by investigating the app and also, you know, having some inside access. So here's an example of Facebook F8 and them rolling out and telling people they're going to roll out these new features. And really what it is the story camera UI. So there's a different camera when you're in stories than there is when you're elsewhere. And you can see at the top of that article, those are some of the features. They're rolling this out. So new story mode icons. So if you're unfamiliar with stories, back at F8 in April, what Facebook said is the future is private, and that they're going more for one-to-one messaging. And a big part of their strategy is stories are ephemeral. They come and they go. You can save them and archive them and use them and highlight them. But they're very much more personal. So instead of throwing up content onto your news feed and just publishing it for the world to see, stories go to your closer friends or close friends, and the interaction is different. And what they've been doing all year is literally every couple of few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, there's some new feature. And it's getting a lot of attention from Facebook in terms of its importance. And there's a huge growth that we've seen in these Instagram and Facebook stories. So here's a few different camera modes they're going to be introducing. One is focus, the Instagram layout, so a layout feature so you can create quick layouts, music, stop motion, and the ever famous super zoom.
I love the super zoom.
And everyone's favorite is good old boomerang. So boomerang is really cool in the sense that, so it's funny because when we talk about this kind of stuff, especially with some of our more corporate partners, stories are like, well, that's cute. That's what kids would do. There have been 500 million story users created and 3 million story advertisers. They have lots of interactive features, actually very powerful. And you can see what they're doing here. They've revamped Boomerang for stories. So you have the different modes: classic, Boomerang, hold, pauses at the end of each loop, wiggles at the end of each loop, slow-mo, just like classic but slower, duo, slightly slower than classic but not much else. And duo, again, slightly faster than classic. So you can see there's a couple of examples there for what boomerangs can do. And really what it is, I think, is looking at this and saying, okay, Facebook has in one story UI for the camera for stories has introduced quite a bit more features if you were to look at other areas of Facebook. Right? And as a marketer or someone looking to use these channels to market, it only makes sense to go where Facebook is putting the attention. Right? And you can do a lot creatively, as you can see here.
That's so nice.
I like that little emulator that she put up. That's actually pretty cool.
And then Instagram on comment sharing as well. So, you know, you've got a lot of different things, notification filters here. And I think that the big thing here is get into those stories, use some of these features, especially the new camera UI and take advantage of it, especially when it's new, when it comes out.
Yeah.
Right.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Like they're fun tools, right? So you use them as they are. Right?
Yeah. And again, I know that some of you may be sitting there saying, well, stories are cute. That's what my 13-year-old daughter would use. But if you think about the ability that you have to take content and be creative with it, be engaging and interactive. The other thing I'll say, and we've tested this out extensively, is when you have the first user approach, that you take a new feature, and when Facebook is notorious for this, whenever they release a new feature, they want people to use it. Therefore, on the algorithm, if you start using that new feature, you will be given preference. It may not last long, but you will be given preference for using these new features. And trust me, they're tracking all of this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you see boomerangs and a new story UI comes out with 4 new features like layouts, boomerang, and super zoom, try this. Spend a weekend and every day do 4 stories, 1 of each, and just see, if you look side by side, see what kind of engagement you get when something is just initially released.
Yeah, for sure. They just don't throw these out and be like, okay, guys, here you go, have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they track it, they give it preference, everything, right?
So it's the first mover advantage. Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about that as well, going into social media networks like TikTok, for example, right? It's early days. The algorithm on that platform is probably not as refined as, say, Facebook or Instagram. So you have a huge opportunity to kind of really gain a lot of engagement using that tactic. But if you go to wongmjane.com, it's a fascinating blog. A lot of times her blog posts are sourced by like The Verge and TechCrunch and Mashable. So if you're kind of looking for the source, she's definitely one of the sources to go to.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I think that was it for what's new this week, guys.
Well, I think we have a bunch of questions here. For
Yeah, we do.
We have a bunch of questions.
So let's jump into the questions.
Should I go down the list?
Yes.
Yeah,
do you
sure.
want to go
Or
down
just
the list?
pick whichever order you
pick
want.
whatever
Here,
ones
they're
you
right
like.
here too.
I think we have about like 6 or 8 or
Yeah. So I have the 2 that start. Okay. So Ben asks, what unique strength does working in graphic design give you? I would say one of the unique strengths that it gives me is a unique way of communicating. You need strong communication skills because not only are you trying to represent what your client wants and what kind of personality they have and what kind of vibe they give off almost, you have to try to communicate to their customer as well, because your client may not have the same personality as maybe what they're targeting to, right? So you have to have really strong communication skills to be like, yeah, okay, this is what's gonna vibe with these people, this is what's gonna vibe with these people, this is the color palette that's going to make people more relaxed, this is the color palette that's gonna make people more hyped if it's that kind of vibe, and then you match it with the client. So like probably the best example would probably be like, recently we did one for a dentist, and one of the main things was we want to make them feel calm. We want no like harsh colors, we want to make it soft pastel. That's like leading towards the client, that's the communication towards their client, right? But then towards their customer, the client itself loves like shabby chic. He like loves like being like super detailed, that kind of thing. So then
Southern Provence style, like lots of soft palettes. I think the interesting thing that you mentioned there is, I think there's weighing the perceptions of clients don't know what they know what they want, they don't know how to get there, and they don't know what they want and what that means. Right. So it's a delicate balance to lead, and you have to kind of, it's a hearts and minds campaign. Is really what it is to give them the reasoning behind. And I've got some follow-on comments and questions as well to kind of just riff on this a little bit. But clients don't know what they want, and that's when you get the like, I don't want that blue, I want the other blue. Right? I want a sailboat. I don't know what that means, but I think that's good. And it's humorous, and you can always get a joke out of it. But intuitively, I think the job is to lead them from this is what I want and getting there strategically so it makes sense across the board. And brand ties in this is one of the things I want to talk about is like, what is graphic design in 2019? Because I don't think it's the same as you were taught in school.
Yeah.
So
I feel like the answer is question number 2. Question number 1. Yeah. Number 2 is graphic design your passion? And yes, just straight up. Just
I would hope so.
I would hope so at this point. Then next question is it possible to pigeonhole yourself design-wise? For example, your experience only doing packaging. And definitely. I feel like that happens a lot in graphic design, where you, especially starting off, you take what you can get, and you take the job that does that one thing. And one thing I would suggest is, especially early in like a graphic designer's career, is go for the small company where you have your hands in everything and you have to do every little aspect of it, because you're not pigeonholed at all because you have your hand in everything. But later in the career, because you had your hand in everything, you know what you like and you know what your strengths are. So then you can not pigeonhole yourself later, but you can strategically go to a place where you know that you're going to do way better.
Yeah. My advice would be, and I think that you pigeonhole yourself. And then again, this leads to what is graphic design? I mean, the lines are blurred in marketing and communications now. It used to be that there was like a graphic design department and we talked to them, and then, there's a strategic department over here and the accounts department's over there. In 2019, like, what does graphic design mean? Because you have Instagram, Pinterest, packaging, prints, you've got all sorts, lots of video. I think it's a larger story. One of the suggestions I would have in terms of whether you pigeonhole yourself, and look, if you're passionate about something, like you said you were, go to your local little theater, comedy club, charity, pick a project that you're passionate about, design a book cover for a freelance or writer, an independent author. Find things that, what I would suggest is get outside of that box. So if you've done packaging design, and that's your thing, go and design a book cover. Find an author, design a book cover, and put yourself into an uncomfortable situation that would maybe stretch your creative limits with different parameters.
Yeah.
And that's something you just do, I think, for free if you're passionate about it. Right.
Which is go kind of to the next question, which is the best way to break into freelance graphic design. And that is one of the best things to do, is just do what you're interested in, make that book cover, make that, and then create that nice portfolio that people see what you're fully capable of, right?
Yeah.
And one thing is like do cute little jobs. Maybe your dad needs business cards, maybe like that kind of thing, and then he tells your friends, then it goes down the hole that way. Yeah. But like the best way to kind of get into the freelance is like just make art, like make whatever you find is like, you want to make a club promotion poster, do it. Then post it out. If people love it, then maybe that Joe Blow's club will take you to start doing their posters, right?
There's a really good opportunity, and I know I think Gary Vee's talked about this a couple of times, of working for free and how it can really help you in propelling your career and your professional life. I think looking at influencers, whether they're video influencers or something like that, it's a great opportunity for someone who has a skill like graphic design to go up to them and be like, hey, like, can I create this for you? Like, no charge. Like, I really like your content and I think I can help you do it. Like, I've done that similarly with esports, where I've offered to do PR for them for their teams and things like that. Like, no pay, nothing, and it's helped me tremendously. It's
the one thing that's nice about like the graphic design career is that like you can just literally show them, be like, this is what I'm capable of. This is like, this is everything. This is what I can do, and it's very visual, and you know exactly. You're like, yeah, I like that. Like,
sure.
And if you're looking to break into that, I think it's important. I know the one story that from Gary Vaynerchuk is his videographer J-Rock worked for him for I think 2 months with no pay, and he said it sucked. It was no fun, but he got the job that he wanted by doing that. And that's not to say, I don't think the analogy is work for free.
Yeah, no.
I think what it is show that you are proactive, that you're passionate about what it is that you do, and that you're willing to be creative within bounds. Another thing I would suggest is, if you're looking to break into freelance graphic design, find your 12 favorite musicians that maybe are accessible, maybe they're independent. But you know what? Here's the thing, and I think this is a lot of ways. We've worked with Snoop Dogg in the past and a number of big names. People are always like, how do you get a hold of them? Like, they're business people. They have agents. They are, in fact, very easy to get a hold of. And if you've got a good idea and a great concept and show them something, you will get a response. So what I would say is, okay, if you're really passionate about music or writing or whatever it might be, you want to do packaged CPG, corporate packaging, consumer packaged goods, whatever it might be, is find a list, like make this list and start reaching out to these people and giving them an idea for a project that you want to do, or go ahead and do it and send it out to them and see what feedback you get. Maybe they'll say it's crap because it's crap for them.
Yeah.
But that's great feedback, right? Yeah. If you want to do the freelance thing, you have to have a thicker skin.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. You definitely have to have thicker skin, like what I was saying with the communication skills that you need to be a graphic designer. Like, you're gonna get like a bunch of pushback, and that's fine. Like, that's actually part of the process, and you just kind of have to get used to it.
Yep.
But so we can go to our next one, which is how do you begin your design process? So me personally, let's put an example. Let's say like when I'm starting a brand or like a logo. I'll literally be Googling, I'll be going through all the imagery, I'll be like, what is this person's aesthetic? Who is this person? Like, if they're looking for people with like bad teeth, let's say, like, who are these people? What do they normally like? What would they normally be Googling? What kind of aesthetic would they like? And for us, it was they want to be calm. So we want a palette that's like, that's not aggressive and that kind of thing. So like, literally, like, don't be afraid to Google and go through all these examples, because I find a lot of designers think like, oh, like Googling is like copying blah blah blah. Yeah. But like, no, like literally go in, like make a full profile, make a full mood board, make like get the aesthetic ready, because also like the client that wants that kind of stuff, like they appreciate it. They're like, yeah, like you're on the right track, and then you can go from there. Yeah. Yeah. And then, so the next one is best way to discover your personal design aesthetic. For me, is literally try everything. Like, go in, maybe make like, I've tried pixel art, I've tried like just straight up illustration, grading illustration, like more modern, more asymmetrical, like try everything. And then once you find the thing that you find you do more often, there you go. You got your design aesthetic right there. One thing I would say is like with the whole pigeonhole thing is don't pigeonhole yourself into one aesthetic. Like every designer wants that like aesthetic that they have, but like not every client likes it, and not every business is really complements that aesthetic, right? So you don't want to pigeonhole yourself in that sense, but try everything. Like, yeah.
I think it's important for designers to understand that your personal design aesthetic obviously works its way in. But as a designer, what you have to do when you work with the rest of a team and you look at the strategic communications and who are the personas, your personal design aesthetic should not be the leading force in the design process. It can't be. It has to follow the target, the messaging, and the type of audience that you've got. And that's why, quite honestly, you see some really garbage design that is incredibly effective. It's because it does resonate with a certain type of audience. And I think as a designer, you know, there's this notion of the designer in a mock turtleneck, and it's like sprockets and dita, and I've got black and simplistic, postmodernistic.
And I have worn that one day.
Yes. And that's okay to do that. But at the end of the day, I think really what design comes down to, and look, I grew up in a house of designers and advertisers and I've seen it all, and in a lot of ways. And I think the most important thing is that if you look at certain really super effective marketing and design campaigns, a lot of them are not necessarily what you would expect. Right? And I think you need to be open to that. And then I think on a personal level, because if you're in the visual design side of it, there's typically like an artist or creativity side that comes with that. That's something that I think ever evolves with you. And so you kind of have to keep that passion up. If you're an illustrator, keep illustrating. If you do vector artwork, continue to draw vector art, you know, like continue that, because as you go through your life and your career, I think your design aesthetics change, all the time.
It does. And like, to go to the next question, do you always try out a new design trend at least once, even if you don't like the style? Yes, because even if I don't like that specific style, maybe it's going to help the next client that comes in. You know what I mean? Like it's maybe going to be the perfect aesthetic that's going to really bring that client to the foreground.
Yeah.
So yeah, try everything. Like yeah.
And I think the interesting thing about that is you may not like everything about that design and the way it's contained and displayed, but there's different ways creatively to merge certain design types, and you see that in interior design happening a lot. Like shabby chic is one, but there's also like urban shabby chics and all these different, so you can create these fusions that creatively can help you.
Mid-century modern.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have any more here?
That's it.
Okay. I think that, we've got a couple of minutes here left, and I think the important thing is there's a great Gary Vaynerchuk. It's actually a commercial for Design Pickle, but it's Gary Vaynerchuk riffing on what is wrong with designers is that they have this arrogance that they overvalue their work because it maybe isn't right. And that was kind of what we were just talking about. And it's a bit of a shtick for Design Pickle and everything else. But I think there's something to be said about this notion of what is graphic design in 2019, because I feel strongly about this, is that the way you probably were taught in school is that Justin's in the design department, he's got his art table, his big monitor, I go away and I create these package designs like they did in 1984, and I come back and my job is done. But that was in an age of very limited distribution channels, controlled media like 5 television stations and radio and print and billboards, and that was it, magazines. And now in 2019, it's like, so our logo is going to be on Snapchat and Instagram, and people are going to use it. And, how do we create this flexibility? So,
I always think about like flexibility when it comes to like creating a brand. Like I'll have like 5 different variations of the same logo, just like this is what's going to be perfect for condense, this is what's going to be perfect for landscape, like vertically, like you got to think of everything. Like if it's on a dark background, this is what's going to work. If it's on a light this is what's going to work, because brands are everywhere now, and you have to really be like, you have to really become that chameleon that like knows where it's going to go and what aesthetic is really going to fit each brand.
And I think the other thing too is that in 2019, and that's why I kind of hesitate to call it graphic design. I like to call it design, because there's different types of design. There's communications design, there's visual design, there's persona design. And all of these things, when you look at it from a branding perspective, and I think this is a challenge to traditionally notions of graphic designers, is to say, think about, what about the persona? What about the person that you're trying to reach? Let's say they're heavy Instagram users, right? What's the strategy to use a visual, so it's a visual storytelling medium, which is Instagram, with a narrative, because there's the storytelling side of it. And how does our brand, can we fit it in naturally as part of the brand persona, the design of everything that we're doing, so that we can adapt and fit into our social content schedule that's going to be all over the place. Right? And that's a challenge, I think, that's new for designers. And I know that here what we do is we try not to have silos where it's like, okay, design team, we're making a request for 5 templates and everything else is, and this is good, is bringing in the design team early into the process, not late into the process. So you're not delivering just pretty pictures. So, all right.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. And it's, you know what, it's 5:03, Friday, long weekend. We're looking out. It's a sunny, nice, warm day.
It's so beautiful.
Hopefully it stays like this, man.
It's supposed to for this weekend.
All weekend?
It is. Yes. It is. I think we're supposed to get like one little bit of rain, but it's like early in the morning, and that's it. Yeah, it's all good. All right, everybody. Well, we'll see you next month. Episode 94.
94.
Getting there.
That's going to be a good episode, eh? 94?
94. Good year.
It's a good year. We're both born in 94.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was 4 years after I graduated high school. Sorry. I'm like, that's got to be something. All right. Yeah, we'll do a 94. Maybe we'll have to bring you guys both back. All right, everybody. Well, have a great Labor Day long weekend, and we will see you on episode 94 of Live at the Hive.